All right, it's Friday. Hair's out of control, no real surprise. But since it is Friday, we got to start Friday like we always start Friday, which means we do this, and hopefully I can punch the right buttons.
Come on, man. Go for it, dude.
It's Friday. Friday. Friday.
It's Friday, SDH AM. Jon here, you there. Thanks for dropping by, as you always do. Rundown for the morning. Here is the activities as we know them. We got SDH Book Club coming up at a couple of minutes, 4 minutes. SDH Book Club continues in 4 minutes. We go to, I believe, Sao Paulo, Brazil, and catch up with Jon Cotterill and get the art of the book writing. And John's got a new one out, and we're going to catch up with him. It's about football in Brazil. So having an opening kickoff with John, with our friends from Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com makes sense because of the contents of said coffee. Also this morning, we've got to get our updates with Atlanta United, figure out where things are, what the latest reporting is involving 4 particular individuals. Got a lot of Leagues Cup to get into this morning. We got highlights, we got posts, we got bangers, we got previews, we got weekend previews all over the place. We're going to talk about WAFCON. We've got USL Championship to get into, MLS Next Pro to get into because of Atlanta United 2, and a road trip tomorrow to Chattanooga, and a big matchup with Chattanooga FC. So we'll have that one for you on the network. I believe 6:30 start, 7:03 kick on the network. We'll all be up there, and you'll see social and everything. It'll all be up there. News out of the NWSL in Louisville. We've got to get you caught up on that. Jeff Kassouf caught up with Emma Hayes. Emma Hayes has some concerns. We'll discuss that. We got to talk about WAFCON, and where apparently 10 numbers to the left of the decimal place were apparently left on the table because of an executive decision that AFCON made. And we've got to catch up with our friends Ben Jacobs, Tom Bogert, David Ornstein, find out what the other rumors and reports are there. You got Rodri in play. And that's just the beginning of that particular cascade. So that's all of the things that are going on this morning. Opening kickoff brought to you by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com, starting your day with the most important stories in the game and the right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee, part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend made with beans from Brazil, Guatemala, heavy body, notes of walnut, semi-sweet chocolate, and rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff powered by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Morning, Alex. And we got Premier League stuff to get into as well. And like I said, it's a bunch of different things that kick off the morning, get you ready for the weekend. We'll show you what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. We've got, I think, EFL Cup is going on too as well. Not EFL 2, but EFL Cup as well is going on. So there's a lot of weekend previewy stuff. Like I said, we got highlights from last night. It was a bit of MLS revenge. I say a bit, it wasn't total, and it was wildly swinging when it came to results. It was either stuff that was close to the vest or it was blowout city. And I think the later that we got into the evening last night in Leagues Cup, it was more blowout city, and it makes you wonder about concerns and things like that if you are a coach. We are getting closer and closer and closer to the college season. You're starting to see some folks kind of kick the tires a little bit on practice. You've got folks that are having scrimmages this time next week, and then the season kicks in for real. And obviously on the 20th, we will be up in Athens covering stuffing Sanford Stadium when it comes to UGA and James Madison. If you have not gotten your tickets, get your tickets. Looking for a packed house. I know not 90, but I mean, think about it. You get a lot of folks there at Sanford Stadium to set a record. Kirby Smart came out yesterday and tried to make sure that folks were packing the house in Athens, Georgia. So looking forward to that over the next couple of weeks. And then, like I said, college season starts. And I was doing the math when I was trying to catch up with each of the colleges here, at least in the state of Georgia, that are attached to the beautiful game. And I think the number was 38. 38 different colleges, universities, whether you're talking JUCO, 2-year, 4-year, Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA. Like I said, JUCO, I think the number was 38 by the time I was done. So there's a lot that we'll be getting into with Red Clay on the college side of things. And it's going to be really, we always talk about sprints. And so, it's always an opportunity to see what's going on with colleges, et cetera. But no, it'll be fun to see what's going on the college game. And remember, they've split the schedules now. So it's an opportunity for us to cover half of college and then get into college and let you know what's going on. So it's going to be a sprint that's going to take over a lot of things. And Nishikiran, welcome. Glad to have you. Saw one of the shorts and came in. So, yeah, this is where we are. 9:05 a.m. Eastern U.S. time. And that's when we start things off. And we're off and running for a couple hours. And we will see what's going on from there. So welcome. Don't be a stranger. Glad you found us. And this is where we are. So this is the fun part of anything and everything going on here when it comes to the beautiful game. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I might have missed this morning coming into things, just to kind of set the table a little bit. Let's see. David Ornstein, Barca's offer to Manchester City, €45 million in add-ons to sign Rodri. Manchester City regard that as nowhere near the level needed to negotiate a sale and insist no meaningful talks taking place. As the bid is considered serious, yet to be made. Barcelona, they know the price to be around €80 million. So that's the latest from David Ornstein, and we will continue as we go. All right, SDH Book Club. And this was fun. And fellow authors like to kind of catch up with each other. And when this came across our table collectively, I was like, ooh, we need to have this conversation. So we go to, I believe, Sao Paulo, Brazil. Am I right?
You are correct. We're in Sao Paulo, Brazil, live and direct.
Wow, that's epic. First off, welcome to the morning show. I know you're an hour ahead, so your morning is a little further along. Can you tell me what has happened in the last hour so I can perhaps be prepared for it?
What's happened here in Sao Paulo?
Just in the world. I need the world preview for the next hour since you've already experienced it.
Well, I had the news on. People talking about, interesting, because we're talking about books, of course, and apparently there's a new craze, a new phase on Instagram where you can actually post what you're reading. So instead of having the music at the top of your Instagram post, you can actually say what you are reading right now. So I'm sure millions around the world will be saying, yeah, right now I'm reading this.
Attaboy. There you go.
There you go. I'm trained at this stuff.
Fantastic. Jon Cotterill joining us. He has a new book out, and it has to do with Brazilian football. And I want to kind of get into the art of the author, because I've done, I think 5 or 6, I think it's 6. And I wanted to kind of get into the idea and the genesis of the jigsaw puzzle and all of that to kind of find out why this particular book. I know you've written 4, but why this one?
A little bit. So I didn't get the. Can you just repeat the question?
Sure. Just why this particular book? One author to another. Why this one?
No sound.
Huh. That's weird, because I have no video. That's wild. It's like you dumped all of a sudden. Let's see. So let me send John a note real quick. And it was wild. It's like all of a sudden the video dumped, and it was it's like then all of a sudden he just disappeared on me. Let's see. So let me see if I can figure out how to send a note. Here we go. I think this is it. No, that's not it. No. Okay, here we go. And log in. Okay, that was crazy. All right, so we'll try it again. Take two. Let me see what we got. And I have no. There we go. You got your ears on, John? Can you hear me? You got it, John? You hear me? That's what happens when you're trying to get in touch with Sao Paulo, Brazil. Let's see. So, okay. So maybe here we go. There it is. All right. So there, I don't know what happened. It's like all of a sudden video dumped and audio dumped and all that kind of stuff. But it is me talking to you in Brazil.
The wonders of technology.
I'm right there with you. So why this book?
Okay, right. So it's a series. I think just before we got cut off, you were saying it's a series of 4. So it is the 4th book. So yeah. I've done a couple of books on scouting. But the order was, the first one was on scouting called Anatomy of a Football Scout, which is still doing pretty well. Then I had a book on Brazil in the World Cup. And the Brazil in the World Cup book came out of a book I was going to write about Brazilian football in general. And the section on the Seleção, the Brazilian national side, just kind of grew and grew and grew. So I thought, okay, I better turn it into a book on its own, which is exactly what happened. So just to flash it up. So this one here.
There it is.
Brazil in the World Cup came out, and it is quite a it's quite a thick book actually. It's all goals and everything that you need to know about Brazil, right back from before 1930 up until until the last World Cup. And so from that, another book emerged because stories kept coming up, which I kept seeing about, of the other side to the beautiful game. Let's put it that way. And so, are we having more problems?
I hear you fine.
I've got a kind of a scrambled version. Do you want me to carry on?
Yeah, go for it. Go.
Okay. So from that book, stories were emerging about the other side of the beautiful game, and in the end, these stories were all compiled. Some of them involving many of the former Brazil internationals, of course, like Adriano, perhaps one of the most famous, and Ronaldinho and Romario. I use the H version here in Brazil. So all these stories emerged, and they all came to form the new book called Rebels, Rogues, Guns and Gods, The Wild World of Brazilian Football. So your ideas of perhaps what Brazilian football is about are overturned. I think this is one of the things about Brazilian football, is that every 4 years, the Brazilian national side come out and people have this image of a certain particular style which Brazil are expected to play. And because they only watch the Brazil side every 4 years, and because they have this fixed image from a team of the 1970s, the Pelé side, the Gerson side, the Jairzinho side, and also back in '82 with the likes of Zico in that squad, they have a fixed idea which is never seems to change. And this book is, in some ways, a response to those fixed ideas.
How hard was it to put the jigsaw puzzle together in a way you wanted it to be done?
It kind of formed itself naturally, I think. The stories just kind of fed into one another. It kicks off with a murder story, a murder most foul, involving a goalkeeper at a famous club, very famous, and perhaps one of the most famous clubs in Brazil, called Flamengo, a guy called Bruno, who was involved. He was married, but he had a string of, how should we say, a string of attachments on a consistent basis. And one of them got pregnant, and then he formed a plot to murder this girl. So that opens the book. It's called Psycho Killers. So that's the starting chapter in the book. And it moves on to the kind of a rogue hero sections with the likes of Romario and the antics that they get up to as well. Romario and Ronaldinho is an interesting one because he decided with his brother that they were going to get some false documents into Paraguay. Why on earth that happened, I'm not sure. He did a recent documentary, I think, which came out earlier this year. It's skipped over, really. So it's those kind of stories. So you've got murder, you've got a lot of gunslingers as well. There's a lot of players and coaches who like the old gun. And then, of course, odd incidents like the Ronaldinho passport thing in Paraguay a few years ago.
And when you want to tell these particular stories, how much of it is you telling a story and finding information, and how much is it of people either close to the story, engaged in the story adjacent that went on the record? How much of that balance was there in piecing this together?
Well, these stories, we call them stories. They're actual facts, of course. There's a lot of information here in Brazil. The issue is that while Brazilians, some Brazilians, not all Brazilians, of course, are aware of these stories and talk about these stories and feature these stories very, very heavily, they're not necessarily known abroad. And there's a kind of attitude where many here do not like that side of the game, that side of Brazil being exported around the world. So there's a bit of a negativity just because it's these stories, not because they happened, but because someone else knows about them, because they a non-Brazilian is talking about these stories. So there's lots of things there, well publicized. There's a lot of information around if you dig around for it. The attitudes, of course, depending on the club, because things like Flamengo are an absolutely massive club. They claim to have about 45 million supporters. They say they're the biggest club in the world. They're the biggest club in Brazil, closely followed by Corinthians in terms of support. I mean, that's a massive number. And that number means you have a huge influence on the media. So that certainly affected, in the case of Bruno Fernandes, the one who was involved in the murder, that certainly affected the way he was portrayed, and also the way the supporters who like Flamengo, their attitudes towards the goalkeeper as well. And that's all covered in the book, because it's, some of the things which were said about the victim were quite despicable. And there are rumors, and it's been documented, that the victim was actually fed to Rottweilers.
Wow.
Whether or not that was true, but that's one of the stories which is featured. And I've said, it is a possibility. The other thing is that she was locked in the concrete, which neither is a particularly nice end for anybody involved. But because of the influence of someone like Flamengo, because of their media influence, because of the financial influence, of course, sometimes these stories aren't really gone into. But the Bruno Fernandes case was a huge, huge story here in Brazil, of course.
Jon Cotterill, Rebels, Rogues, Guns, and Gods, the wild world, too many D's, the wild world of Brazilian football, Anatomy of a Football Scout. It's Jon's fourth book as a part of his dossier. And he's hanging out with us here on SDH Book Club here to kick things off on a Friday. How much of this did you know, and how much of this for you was a treasure hunt in piecing this one together?
That's a good one. A lot of it, the Bruno story, of course, I knew about. I knew about the little stories, including Romario, what he got up to. Edmundo, or Edmundo, as he's known around the world. The animal was well documented as well. I think when I got into stories such as, there's a section called Roadkill, which is a bit crude, but it's about footballers in particular getting involved in car accidents, or car incidents, rather. And there's a lot of, it's such a strange legal system here in Brazil. It is designed to protect the wealthy. Brazil, for example, they don't extradite citizens who, of course, abroad, if they get into a bit of trouble, get back over to Brazil. No one's going to pull them out and head them off to the United States to face trial, for example, which could have been the case with quite a few top officials in the Brazilian Football Confederation, for example. But the amount of incidents on the roads involving football is phenomenal. Just this week, actually, just a couple of days ago, a 19-year-old football player at one of those was involved in an incident which led to a death of a pedestrian. It is a regular occurrence, and they don't. It's so strange because they don't seem to end up in jail. It's very rare end up in jail. They end up paying fines, even kill somebody on the road. But players rarely spend any time jail. They just pay a fine and they're out and they continue playing. It is such a bizarre setup here. So these kind of things are featured very, very heavily.
And, when you're, let me ask it this way. You don't sound like you're from Belo Horizonte. How does a guy end up in Brazil, and how did you become, how did you, I guess, move from home to Brazil, and what has the experience been like for you to experience Brazilian football the way that you have?
Well, I was always a massive football fan when I lived in England, and my background is in teaching. So I used to meet a lot of Brazilians, and of course, the love of the game came from meeting Brazilians, not just Brazilians, but also South Americans as well, and also students from lots of different countries all around the world. I met, it's the same old story, I met somebody when I was a teacher, and then I came over here just to sample how life would be in Brazil. I came over as a teacher, and within a few months, by an amazing stroke of fortune, I became a football commentator, which is way back in 2002. So since 2002, that's been my job. I'm a football commentator in English, mostly the Brazilian game, but also now the Libertadores and the Sudamericana, which I do from Buenos Aires. I've got to go down there again next week. So the background is that teaching, but now for the last 24 years or so, involved in football commentary, mostly football commentary, occasionally a bit of jiu-jitsu as well, and one or two other things like beach soccer. And I did the Kings League commentary just a few months ago as well. So that is that's the background. So it is my job, really. So these stories always came up, and I was involved. I worked for one of the biggest companies here in Brazil called TV Globo for 12 years. So I met a few players at the time as well. There's always personalities around. So these stories came up, and they're always in the back of my mind. And then eventually they got transformed into the book.
Did anything end up on the cutting room floor still that's hanging out there in the ether?
Couldn't quite get that one. Breaking up just a little bit.
Were there any stories that ended up on the cutting room floor in piecing this together, or was it all those?
Oh yeah, there's okay. What I think is any stories that didn't quite make the book. There's one or two stories. I think there's room for volume 2. Should it prove to be a success around the world? There's one or two little stories that didn't quite make it. There's one or two vagaries, because sometimes incidents happen and they're yet to be resolved. So most of these things in this are stories which happened and have some kind of resolution. But there's one or two stories out there involving the likes of Romario, who are not quite resolved yet. So I'm waiting for some kind of resolution to say, right, this is what happened, apparently, and this is what happened in the end. So there's a few things like that as well. But most of the stuff I read is in the book, and it goes back not only the modern day players, but also players like Garrincha. And depending on the player, depending on the situation, there's a bit more sympathy awarded to some players. But in the case of Bruno Fernandes, the goalkeeper involved in the murder, no sympathy whatsoever. Although I do look at his family background. And when I looked at the family background, I was really, really surprised, because there's just so many of his brothers and cousins and the parents involved in some levels of crime. It's just absolutely phenomenal, that story.
What book is next on your list to write?
It depends. I've got a few ideas as what to do. It might go down the scouting book, because I've always liked the idea of having a trilogy when it comes to player recruitment and scouting. So that's a possibility. It could be another football book based on Brazil, of course, but I've yet to decide which one it's going to be. So either the trilogy, well, in fact, it's going to be the trilogy, isn't it? It's trilogy on scouting or the trilogy on Brazilian football. But I'm not to decide which one it is.
All right. I have a Brasileiro question for you before we get you off to your morning. Up here in our footprint, Atlanta United fans in Major League Soccer have been basically at the financial, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it. They're not fans of Jon Textor. How about that? I'll phrase it that way. With everything that has happened at Botafogo, What is the current thought about the state of affairs at Botafogo in your circles since you're front and center with the Brasileiro? What are your thoughts right now about what's going on at Botafogo?
Well, Botafogo, one of the biggest names in Brazilian football. I mentioned Garrincha just a few moments ago. Famous, probably the most famous player to play for Botafogo. And they had a lot of players, especially back in 1958, 1970, coming from Botafogo as well. So massive, massive club, very traditional club, of course. What happened in Brazil over the last, say, 5-6 years is there's been a possibility, like the Premier League, where at one point in Brazil, it was impossible for a club to be partly owned or fully owned.
So I ask a question about Botafogo, and then the line gets all honky again. It's like I knew the second I stepped out from talking about a book and asked a Botafogo question, I knew that was when interference was going to start happening again. So be a little patient here, and we'll see if we have to reconnect with Jon one more time, and we'll get him to put a wrap on the book. But I had to ask the Botafogo question because of everything going on with Jon Texter and what the thought was there. But it's good to know that we now can talk to Jon about things having to do with Libertadores and Sudamericana and the Brasileiro and all that kind of stuff. See, for me, that's a good thing. That's cool. So we'll get him on one more time, and we'll have him finish his Botafogo thought, and then we will once again promote the book here, SDH Book Club. This is what happens, when you're in Brazil and you're trying to get things all squared away. So, all right, waiting for. There's the audio. I knew the second I asked the Brasileiro question, Jon, that it was a little wonky, but go ahead with your Botafogo thought. You were mentioning how it was unheard of until a couple of years ago for any kind of outside ownership, and it turned into an American who was doing it with Jon Texter.
Yeah, okay. So what would happen is, clubs only run by supporters in theory, no outside money coming in. So a few years ago, there's a new law which came into action where clubs could actually open themselves up to foreign investments, which for many kind of middle or low ranking clubs, it was a great outlet because suddenly you got a chance to get money in. Botafogo, even though, like I've said, the massive, massive name, were one of those clubs who went to go down this route. And so they decided, okay, we're going to open ourselves up. We're going to open ourselves up to investment. So not every club will do this. Big clubs like Flamengo, Corinthians, Palmeiras probably won't, because it's a strange thing here that clubs can bring political power. If you are president, for example, of a club like Flamengo or Vasco have gone down that road, but you can have a lot of political power and you can get yourself into good positions politically as well. So it is a strange setup here. But Botafogo have gone down that road. Texter, of course, has his fingers in different pies around Europe, different clubs. He's got a multi-club model running. So it is one of those things where money can come in, and at the time it did seem like a silver bullet. But of course, it depends who's investing in the club. If they are what they call really football people, what are their motivations? Atlético Mineiro, for example, they also became, it's called a SAF, SAF, which basically opens you up to outside investment. So Atlético Mineiro are kind of run now by a group set up of supporters who support the club. So in theory, that's a good thing, but they're having financial problems as well. So opening yourself up is good because it means money comes in. However, you might find yourself losing players to parts of clubs owned by that partnership. So if you've got a multi-club model, if a multi-club model comes in, maybe they're taking off the cream of your players and sending them off to players in Europe, for example. So it's not a silver bullet by any stretch of the imagination. In theory, it's a way of getting more cash in to stabilize the club, but it doesn't always work that way. As we've seen in not just in Brazil, but all around the world, I think. It depends who's coming in to buy the club and what they want to do with the club. Manchester United, the owners, American owners, have had a lot of stick because they haven't been investing, according to the fans, in the stadium. and in the club itself. So it depends who's coming in. And Texter, with his background as well, it's a colourful background, I think. But the money is there. It just depends on how the club is run and what they want to do with the club.
As always, it is great to hear your voice. Now I can associate a voice with what I've been watching in South America with South American football. Congratulations on the new book, and can't wait to continue to see things being added on the bookshelf when it comes to having your name attached to it. I can't thank you enough for doing this, Jon, to start our weekend off here on the morning show. 1,000 thanks, and we'll be catching up with you soon, my friend. Great to hear your voice.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot.
There he goes,
Pleasure.
Jon Cotterill. He's got a new book out, and the title is Rebels, Rogues, Guns, and Gods: The Wide World of Brazilian Football, Anatomy of a Football Scout, and it's part of that series. And with Jon, it is Anatomy of a Football Scout, Brazil in the World Cup, soccer stories, scout stories, and so this is 5 for him. So Anatomy of a Football Scout, Brazil in the World Cup, Scouts, Stories, A Life in the Shadows, Anatomy of a Football Scout, and this one that came out June the 8th. So 2 months out, Rebels, Rogues, Guns, and Gods, The Wide World of Brazilian Football. And I can't thank Jon for reaching out to us multiple times from Sao Paulo, Brazil, and answering our questions about what we get to watch on Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Now, since we're there, let's go ahead and talk about it. And with Fanatis, once again, you get Copa Argentina with our friends at TIC. You get TVV out of Venezuela, CDO Plus out of Chile. You get Liga 1 Max Pro out of Peru. And you get all the BNs. And I mean all the BNs. It's been interesting seeing what's going on at WAFCON. They're now down to the final 8. And we've got a bit of a WAFCON sidebar and an AFCON sidebar here in a second. But Middle East and North Africa, BN apparently has picked up the Portuguese league, and you can get the Turkish league, the Polish league, the French league. You can get everything going on in the African continent, Middle East and North Africa, and that is AFCON, WAFCON, Champions League, all of the under tournaments to determine who's going to World Cups and things like that. You can get that all in one place at Fanatis. You get Libertadores, Sudamericana, tie-ins to a lot of the A and B divisions in South America, Tigo Sports, CATV, all of that all in one place at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. So Rebels, Rogues, Guns, and Gods, Wide World of Brazilian Football out in paperback. And stories so wild they had to be told. And he isn't kidding. Just to give you an idea, it is, and Jon got into putting this one together, Ana Paula Silveira. I've always been intrigued by the hostile atmosphere, the ambivalence, the shady deals, the underworld, and, of course, the violence associated with the industry. Lately, it's become even more ferocious and misogynistic. The writer, a commentator, and researcher adeptly uses his outsider's magnifying glass to make us see what we don't often want to see. And Bira Brasil reveals a different side of Brazil's national pastime. Content is sometimes shocking and often surprising, frequently entertaining, and always well-researched. So that's part of the dossier of Jon Cotterill, who got to join us from Sao Paulo, Brazil this morning. So that was fun to catch up with him on Book Club. So I mentioned AFCON and WAFCON. And with both of those, we now know what the quarterfinals look like in WAFCON. And Malawi makes their way through. And you have, quarterfinals on the 8th and the 9th. So Saturday and Sunday in Rabat and Casablanca is where it is going to lay itself out. Ivory Coast and Algeria, Morocco, South Africa. Then on Sunday, Cameroon, Nigeria, Malawi, and Ghana. And so that's your final 8 in in WAFCON to determine who gets the title. And that's going to be on August the 16th in Rabat at Moulay El Hassan and Moulay Abdallah Stadium. So that's the semifinals, and your third place game is going to be at the Olympic Stadium in Rabat on the 15th. So we have 9 days left in WAFCON, but AFCON had some news come out this morning. Apparently, the biennial switch cost the African governing body a deal worth more than $1 billion, and this comes from Osasu Obayawana at The Guardian. Change to a 4-year cycle led to the abandonment of the 25 bid, and CAF has not had a long-term financial deal since 2019. According to the article at The Guardian, A deal worth at least $1 billion in secured income over 8 years abandoned by CAF, the Confederation of African Football, because the governing body decided to switch AFCON from biennial to a four-yearly event. So from every 2 to go to 4. So by pulling it out to a 4-year thing, instead of doing it every 2, $1 billion was left on the table over an 8-year span. On July 5th, 25, the eve of the delayed African Cup of Nations in Morocco, Patrice Motsepe, the CAF president, told The Guardian in Rabat after a prolonged discussion of the bidding process and an executive committee meeting, a decision on a winning bid would be made, quote, in due course. We announced in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, this $1 billion partnership we're looking at over the next 8 years. A lot of good progress that has been made. On July 23rd, 25, this year, after the World Cup final, CAF opened a fresh tender for the marketing and commercial rights for 28, 32, and 36. Bidders have been given until the 24th of this month to hand in bid books. Tenders in complete contrast to the 25 bidding round, in which the entirety of the competition portfolio was bundled for sale. The head of communications at CAF confirmed the change in AFCON frequency is wholly responsible for the abandonment of the 25 bidding round that was on the verge of completion. Then it's been 7 years since CAF has had a long-term deal to secure its financial future. The 2016 through $28 billion, quote, minimum guarantee, end quote, revenue contract that it signed with Lagardère in France during the tenure of Issa Hayatou, the late Cameroonian president of CAF, was the first of its kind for the organization. And so that agreement terminated in December of 2019 during Hayatou's successors, Ahmad, his time as president, protracted legal dispute. International Chamber of Commerce led to CAF paying Lagardère a final settlement of $50 million as compensation for breach of contract before the 22 World Cup in Qatar. So $1 billion left on the table by widening out your competitions, and CAF and AFCON are still trying to recover from it financially. So that's your AFCON WAFCON update. And Malawi, once again. Malawi, the Shawinga sisters in the NWSL. They have been, this is Malawi's first ever appearance in the tournament. And it has been because of the Shawinga sisters and Temwa Shawinga, who we know from Kansas City in the NWSL, that they have been making the run that they have. So we'll see where it continues this weekend as they're now into the final 8 when it comes to everything going on. All right, let's get into Leagues Cup and what happened yesterday and what is going to be happening on the weekend. It was an adventure. Let's say that match day last night was a bit of an adventure for us, and we'll get into the 5 matchups coming up tonight as well. We'll work backward. So, and this is where all the goals were. Backward was all the late night stuff. Portland and Puebla, 26th ranked Portland Timbers, 36th ranked Puebla. This one was at Providence Park, and it was a late night kick, and it was all Portland. Right now, it's like, do you want to bring in Marty Cifuentes, or do you want to stick with your interim coach? 5-2. And Puebla, once again, when you're chasing after a match, you end up with 61% possession by the end of the night. But it was a long night for Puebla, and this is even after they had tied it at 1. You end up with a Lassiter goal in the 5th. Moustre scores on the 14th. And then it was technically three goals in 10 minutes that really spaced everything out. And here is the tail end of what happened in the first half. Once again, brought to us by our friends at Apple TV and Leagues Cup. Cole Bassett, a very busy man.
Played on quickly. Moustre onto the right wing, but diving play by Smith. And now DaCosta, a chance to get in. DaCosta cutting it backdoor Bassett. The flag stays down, and this one is blown wide open. 4-1 Portland.
And that'll be the look. Will he still get credit for this goal, or will the flag that stayed down and that decision on the offside be called? It looked really close, but David DaCosta burst through the lines and then very unselfishly lays it across for Cole Bassett for his second of the night. Here's the ball from Velda, and it looks as if he is onside when the ball is played.
Brace for Bassett, 4-1 at that point, and I'm just going to leave the lower third up because we're in a bunch of highlights. So Cole Bassett a brace, Lassiter a brace, David Da Costa gets goal number 5. It was 4-1 at the break, 5-2 your final. So Bassett second at 45 plus 3 made it 4-1 at that point. Then you end up with Lassiter getting his brace in the 56th, and then, oh, by the way, by Puebla in the 80th. 5-2 your final at Providence Park. And it legitimately was really the 3 goals in, say, 12 minutes, 45 plus 3, so we'll go back 12. Bassett in 36, DaCosta 38th. Bassett gets his brace at 45 plus 3. So 3 goals, 12 minutes, 4-1 at the break, and that was pretty much ball game for you, with Portland getting the Duke at home and a big win over Puebla. Then you go to Estadio Banorte, otherwise known as the Azteca, and it was San Diego FC taking on Club America. It was Club 8 visiting Club 3, and this was one of those opportunities for Liga MX to have a home match in Leagues Cup this season. And I'm hoping that they can work out more and more and more, because we saw what it meant at Toluca 2 nights ago, and we saw what it meant at the Estadio Azteca last night. And it was a dominant performance by Club America. We'll get into the stats on the flip side. But for Club America, goal in the 11th minute, and honestly, you kind of felt the field tilt from there. They weren't done in the first half, meaning Club America. They were not done. And here was goal number 2 on the night. And I believe this is Mark Rogandino and Heath Pierce. Once again, Leagues Cup on Apple TV.
Opportunities, I would say, more half chances for San Diego FC. That ball looked like it dipped out over the sideline. Instead, Rodriguez will continue on. Centering pass, and it's 2-0. San Diego holding up their arms as Eric Sanchez has doubled the lead. But you have to imagine VAR might take a look at that. It might have been our camera angle, but Heath.
And there you go. That's Mark Rogandino and Heath Pierce. And 2-0 at that point. And it would get worse for San Diego FC on the evening. It was 3-0 at the break. Violante scores at 45 plus 2. 3-0 at the break. Luca Bombino scores in the 63rd. And it was 3-1 your final. Just to get you into the stats on the night. And it was lopsided. 24 shots to 10 for Club America. 24-10. 10 shots on target to 4. 8 block shots to 4. Total passes, and once again, this is obviously going to be slanted because if San Diego FC is chasing, they're going to have the larger numbers, and they did by about 25%. Passing accuracy, 86% to 83. 7 of the 10 corners went to Club America. Total crosses, 4 each side, 3 offsides, 2 to San Diego FC. XG was listed at 3-1 for Club America. Keeper saves, CJ Dos Santos had 7 saves on the night, so it could have been a lot worse. 4 clearances to 2 for San Diego. 15 fouls called, 8 Club America, 7 San Diego FC. Yellow cards both to San Diego FC on the night. And so 10 shots on target, 6 off target, 16 to 6. Just on non-blocked shots, but shots on the night, 24-10, Club America and San Diego FC. So that was the rundown on that one. It was a slant. It was a tilted evening for Club America without question. A tilted evening with the result going to Club America in this one, and San Diego FC still looking for answers. So that was a lot of the goals. Like I said, last night, you had 11 goals scored in the last 2 matches, and then you had 7 in the first 4. That was kind of how it was. Like, it was literally was Leagues Cup after dark last night. going backwards still. Austin and Club Tijuana. Austin ranked number 24 coming in. Tijuana ranked number 27. And it was pretty much Austin FC. First half was all Austin FC, and then Tijuana finishes with 10. Goal by Junior Rosales in the 16th, and then a familiar face gets a goal at the tail end of the first half. Once again, it is Apple TV and Leagues Cup. I believe this is Christian Miles and KCD.
Wonderful intervention now. It sits up for Torres. All the way back. It was on for Vasquez. It still may be on. Gallagher! Double delight for the Irishman, closing the door on a scintillating first half. It's Austin 2, Cholos 0.
Austin's coordinated movement has been so nice in this first half. Runs above the ball, Vasquez coming deep, then he gets high again. There's an intervention from Peroso. This is an incredibly hard finish from Gallagher in this moment. He has to take.
There you go, KCD and Christian Miles. And so that was what happened at Q2. That is game 2 of their 3-game Texas swing. So Christian and KCD have their own little Copa Tejas. And if you don't follow KCD on social, you should. Because it was a chance for her to go home with these matches in Texas. So her first match was the matchup with FC Dallas, and it was in Mansfield, Texas. And it was north of town in the Metroplex. And I think it was like 15 minutes from her house. So she takes her Letterman jacket from high school, and she wore it in the booth. And there were pictures that were taken. It was pretty funny. So it was funny with KCD seeing her wear her Letterman jacket while she was doing a match. And so they were in Austin last night, and I think they've got a third match, next matchup in Texas. It's like bing, bing, bing. And so they got those 3 in a row. Devin Kerr, by the way, is on a plane. He couldn't quite reach us this morning. He's bouncing around trying to get to his next destination with Nate Bacady. But yeah, KCD took her Letterman jacket. If you don't follow her on social media, you should, just because of the adventures that you get with KCD. So it was pretty funny in Mansfield that she got to wear her Letterman jacket, and then she was in Austin last night calling that game. And so Austin gets the win, and it will be our kind of like, where's KCD kind of a thing. It's almost like Waldo, but where's KCD? Yeah, all that good stuff. So let's see. Sorry, I was trying to catch up with Devin, but Devin ended up having to board a flight during the show. Do they not understand that we're trying to do things here? We're trying to do a live morning show. And it's like we need to talk to people, but I guess not. Anyway, it's intriguing across the board to kind of see just connecting point to point to point and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, Letterman jackets. I know. We had them, but obviously I would have had the letter in something. I think I had like one letter in baseball when I was in 10th grade, and that was it. I focused on not studying and not doing well in tests until I absolutely have to. So that was it. I played baseball I stood in the dugout when I was in 10th grade, and that was about it. Okay, so John Gallagher gets a goal, and it was Austin with the win last night against Tijuana. Tijuana had a red card in the 69th minute, and that was nice. So Tijuana gets the loss. They lose 2-0 at Q2. Then at SeatGeek in Bridgeview, it was Club 18 in Chicago Fire and Club 22 in Necaxa. And this one was Steve Cangelosi and Danny Higginbotham. The little ball of hate, Johnny Dean from Wofford, scored in the 31st, 1-0 at the break. Necaxa really couldn't mount any kind of offense. And then 69th minute, you had this moment, which was also nice from the Chicago Fire on offense. And once again, here's Kanji and Danny on the call.
Here's Jay Davila. Otahel has a runway. Sergio Otahel off to the races. Otahel, 5 across the field in attack for the Fire. They lay this off. Making a run is Gutman. Andrew Gutman gathers, shoots, scores! What a finish! Andrew Gutman, the 29-year-old, to double the lead. And it's the Chicago fullbacks on fire tonight. It was Dean in the first half, Gutman in the second. It's 2-0. The all-important insurance goal for Chicago.
And they got it 2-0 your final. So big win for Chicago Fire as they get the Duke knocking off Necaxa. And like I said, literally all the 7 of the it was like there were 11 goals in the last 2 matches, 7 in the first 4. So it wasn't hard to find highlights to choose from. You had Cruz Azul and Philadelphia. And remember, this is last year's, the seedings were based on last year's success or lack thereof. So Philadelphia ranked at number 5. And then Cruz Azul ranked at number 4. La Máquina. So La Máquina goes to Subaru Park. And if you missed the highlights, our friend Dave Leno graciously has posted them to his social media. So Philadelphia and Cruz Azul, they got the second start on the evening. And wasting no time was Cruz Azul getting on the board. This one is, I believe, Chris Whittingham and Lori Lindsay on Apple TV.
Warm and a humid evening here in Philadelphia. You wonder how long the legs will last for any kind of forward pressure. Paradela with options and sliding it wide for Campos. Omar Campos, the former LAFC man, cutting it back. Paradela first time and into the corner. The Cruz Azul fans making themselves heard as La Máquina, the reigning champions of Mexico, have a goal inside 3 minutes of Leagues Cup.
Well, you don't get a better start than that.
And there you go. That was the goal in the match. Literally, the goal. And it happened in the 3rd minute. Literally, it was 3rd minute with Paradela. Jose Paradela scores in the 3rd minute from outside the box. Philadelphia generated 11 second-half shots. Kevin Meyer made 3 saves to preserve the win. And so you look at that and you go, okay, so then what were the numbers? Possession, 54-46. Shots, 14-10 Philly. Shots on target, 4-3. Blocked shots, 6 blocked shots for Philadelphia and 3 blocked shots for Cruz Azul. Passing accuracy, 80% rounding off to 76%. Philly doesn't care. Corners, 7 of the 8 were to Philly. Crosses, 6 of 9 for Philly. 2 offsides, 1 each side. XG was 1.8 for Philly and 0.9 for Cruz Azul. Most of that happening on that goal in the 3rd minute from Paradela. Keeper saves, 4-2. Andrew Ricks had 2 saves for Philly, 8 clearances compared to none. 14 fouls called in the match, 8-6 in the matchup with Cruz Azul getting the 8. And yellow cards, 3, 2 for Cruz Azul, 1 for Philadelphia. And so it was 1-0 your final, Cruz Azul over Philadelphia at Subaru Park. Then the match that started everything, early part of the evening, and it was Arjes Charman and Ian Joy calling an NYC match in New Jersey. At Harrison, NYCFC ranked 14th coming in, going up against number 35, Santos Laguna. And for those of you that follow along when we mention the content on the show, goalless at the half. Santos Laguna hanging in there. But then you end up with a moment, and that's what it was. It was a moment in the 50th, and you end up with NYC getting on the board once again. Jess and Ian on Apple TV.
Fernandez Macau assesses, low ball towards Luigi, one-time wide Pereira. Pereira into the box, Pereira towards Luigi, save! Ojeda blocked, will drop to Tavon Gray! Wow! A striker's finish from the fullback. Tavon Gray rips a hole in the net. 1-0 New York City.
And that was the short version. If you watch the match, Ian Joy went nuts, as you should have. Tavon Gray scores in the 50th, and then you end up with a goal in the 66th minute, and it was by Cavallo. Nico Cavallo scoring in the 66th. 2 goals on the board, 2-0 your final in that one. And Santos Laguna really didn't get a whole lot going offensively. They really didn't the entire night. But it was a big moment for Tavon Gray. 56-44 in possession, 9 shots each side. Thought it was less. 5 on target both sides, 4 blocked on each side. Passing accuracy, 89-86 NYC. Corners, 5 of the 8 go to Santos Laguna. 7 of the 12 crosses to Santos Laguna. 8 offsides on the night, 5 to Santos Laguna. XG 1.3 to 0.8 for Santos Laguna. Keeper saves, 5 by Matt Freese. We got to keep an eye on his face because he had a collision in the second half, and we'll see if he is ready to go in the next matchup for NYC on the weekend. Was down for a while and was getting treatment. So we'll see if there's any medical analysis from the Matt Freese injury. 11 clearances, 6 to NYC, 23 fouls, 12 to Santos Laguna, both yellows to Santos Laguna. And that was the evening for NYC and their win over said Santos Laguna. Pascal Janssen, after the match, he won it 2-0. Didn't really sound all that excited, courtesy of NYCFC, their own selves.
Well, that can be short. We were looking forward to this tournament very much. The opening game for us tonight. Santos obviously didn't have a great start in their own league. Just got started, but we were looking forward to this competition, and I think you could see that also today. First half was decent. Second half was better, with some beautiful goals, some good play also. Very happy with the clean sheet at the end because even though you don't finish them off with more goals, 1 goal can spark something also for Santos to come back. And we didn't allow that to happen, so I'm very pleased for the opening game. But we have to remain calm and humble, prepare ourselves for a quick turnaround, and get ready for the second game.
Very calm and humble Pascal Janssen with NYC. So Pascal Janssen gets the Duke, and you end up with big win for them. And Alex goes, all these 5 stripes were scoring. Yeah, I mean, I kind of did structure it that way. They were part of it. So let me do the math here real quick. So if Alex is mentioning all of the former Atlanta United products that were scoring last night. So let me go ahead and look at the goals. And of the goals that were scored by MLS sides, so 5, 6, 8, 10, 12 goals scored last night. And it was 1 from Gutman, 1 from Gallagher. Just the 2, just Gutman and Gallagher. But I do make a point to run those highlights if they do happen, just so there's a bit of a connection, even though it's not a discussion about Atlanta United specifically. Hey, they were doing well last night, or they were doing well whenever with the club that they're currently with. So 2 of the goals scored by Atlanta United products last night, and it was Gutman and Gallagher in wins for both Chicago and Austin. So Team 14 over Team 35, NYC with a win. Cruz Azul over Philadelphia, Team 4 over Team 5. Like I said, this is last year's numbers, last year's success comes into your seeding. It doesn't have to do with this year. Otherwise, Philly would be in the 30s. Chicago, Team 18 knocks off Team 22 in Necaxa. Team 24, Austin FC over Team 27 in Tijuana. Team 3, Club America over Team 8, San Diego FC. And then Team 26 over Team 36, Portland over Puebla. that was what went down last night in Leagues Cup. We'll go over the juice boxes in a bit and break it all down for you as to what to expect tonight, in addition to everything else that's coming in across the board. So I'm just trying to see if there's anything else that has passed over the wires that we haven't had the opportunity to discuss. We'd mentioned Chucky Lozano yesterday, and we do have to keep an eye out on a couple of other folks. We will get updates on the midfielders and the scorers, because there were 4 names on the list that we discussed yesterday that are going on with Atlanta United and possible futures. So keep an eye out on all of this. And so let me find quickly. Let me see if there's updates and things. That's the official term, updates and things. And we will get you all of the intel and info that you need when it comes to signings and chasing and all of that stuff. So we'll let you know what's going on there. Let's get you into the activity tonight in your juice boxes. And so we'll let you know what's going on there. Tonight in the Leagues Cup, it is 5 matches tonight. And I think this is the end of this is the beginning of a group stage match 2. Sorry, first phase 1, match 2. Charlotte and Atlas at Bank of America. That one's at 7:40 kick. Team 12 and Team 32. 7:40 in Columbus, Ohio. Columbus Crew, Team 17, taking on Pachuca and Team 20. TQL 8:10. This is Apple TV and Unimas. FC Cincinnati at team number 6. Pumas at team 29. That's at 8:10 this evening. 9:10 tonight. Tigres ranked number 2, taking on Minnesota United. The Loons at team 13. This one is at Allianz, even as Tigres is listed as the home side. And then 10:40, it is Vancouver Whitecaps taking on FC Juarez. FC Juarez getting the surprise result, first time out of the blocks here in the phase 1, team 9 versus team 23. So those are your 5 matchups tonight. 2 at 7:40, 1 at 8:10, 1 at 9:10, 1 at 10:40. And getting into the juice boxes for these matchups tonight. Looking at, hang on just a second. Okay, so how did we classify? Yeah, North and Central America. That's how it was classified. Charlotte and Atlas. Charlotte is favored even money at a plus 100. Draws a plus 245. And remember, if it goes to a draw after 90, they go straight to PKs. Winner gets an extra point. Atlas is a plus 270 on the road. Crew, a plus 125, hosting Pachuca. Pachuca is a plus 200. Your draw is a plus 265. 8:10, FC Cincinnati on the minus side at a minus 102. Pumas, a plus 2.25. Draw is a plus 300. Tigres at 9:10, taking on Minnesota United. Tigres a plus 125. Minnesota United a plus 200. Draw is a plus 250. And at 10:40, Vancouver Whitecaps, massive favorite at home. And how did that work out for them against Atlante? They are a minus 278 at home. They need to win these 2, and they need to win them big. Juarez is a plus 650. Your draw is a plus 425. So Charlotte at home favored. Crew at home favored on the plus side. Cincinnati at home favored, slightly on the minus. Tigres, the home team, playing at Allianz against the Loons, a plus 125, so they're favored on the plus side. Vancouver, a minus 278, big favorite at home. Look, Atlante was a plus 1,000. We saw what happened there with Piojo in match number 1. Vancouver's got to really come up with some stuff, and it is an opportunity for them to get a win, but they've got to get a win and win big. So that is what you're staring at with anything and everything going on with the Leagues Cup. That's the word I'm looking for. So, yes. Oh, and by the way, there's this to start hour number 2. email got to y'all before it got to me, so that's why I was kind of filibustering a little bit. Atlanta United signs midfielder Mauricio Amaro. Uruguayan midfielder joins from Sporting Defensor as a U22. Signed through 28-29 with an option for 29-30, occupying a U22 and an international roster spot pending the receipt of the ITC and the P1 visa. Quoting Chris Henderson, excited to add a top young talent like Mauricio to Atlanta United. Player who will strengthen our midfield with his tackling, ball-winning, competitiveness, and ability to drive forward, split lines in possession. Look forward to welcoming him to the club, end quote. Began his career at Defensor, Sporting Defensor. Progressed through the youth system, earned a place with the first team, made his Uruguayan first division debut at 17 against Wanderers back in 23. During his time with the club, Montevideo native, 64 appearances, 4,300 minutes, 2 assists. He has a regular starter over the last 2 years, starting 21 of 31 and 25, all 20 with 1 assist this year. Helped Defensor win the 24 Uruguayan Cup, starting 3 matches and adding an assist. International level, he's represented Uruguay's U20, where he has made 5 appearances since his debut in 2024. Now, we had said in chasing after all of the information about Mauricio Amaro, we had given you the breakdown. Not afraid to get into tackles, not afraid to go and win duels. And his winning numbers, his dual winning numbers, and his recovery numbers and tackling numbers, far right-hand side of the bell curve when it comes to his peers. So that's what you're looking for in a defensive midfielder like Mauricio Amaro. He's going to get into tackles. He's not afraid to mix it up. He's going to win duels, and he's going to recover the ball quickly. So that's what you're looking at when you're bringing in Mauricio Amaro. The number that was looked at when it came to the actual transaction, we had said that it was $3 million was the number. So $3 million was where Defensor, I think, was looking. And I'm trying to see. So sources in South America, once again, Nico Musetti was the first one that had broken all of the information about Defensor and Amaro coming to Atlanta United. So the numbers posted, $3 million with a contract until 29, obviously with an option year for 30. And so Defensor has been making a lot of noise with player transfers, 2 player transfers, and it looks like it is $7.5 million on both of those. Yesterday, 2 days ago, transfer above $3 million, which can grow according to objectives, according to Musetti. It was so $3 million base, performance-based incentives that can have escalators attached to it, and so Atlanta United and Mauricio Amaro are hanging out with each other till 28-29. So we'll and an option year after that. Now, Jason found this information, and it was in the Costa Rican edition of ESPN. Headline, 2 Uruguayans who stand out among South American U21 midfielders. Report comes from the Switzerland-based Centre International d'Études de Sport. Evaluates performance data over 6 months to rank the continent's top young midfielders. Now, here's the top 10 in that in that information packet as it was brought forth. So the top 10 young midfielders in South America. So this is what you're looking at. Top 10 U21 midfielders in South America, according to the Switzerland-based Centre International d'Études de Sport. They're an evaluation thinking house. Performance data over the prior 6 months ranking the continent's top young midfielders. Mauricio Amaro was number 1. Number 2 was Milton Delgado at Boca Juniors. So the numbers that were attached to Milton Delgado at Boca were in the neighborhood of 10 million. Boca turned down 10 million apparently for Milton Delgado. Atlanta United went to Defensor, spent 3 and got Amauto. 3 is the reported figure, so we're just using that as a base. Jose Correa, Deportivo La Guaira. Agustin Medina from Lanús. Tobias Andrada from Vélez Sarsfield. Halam Loboa at Independiente Medellín. Mateo Peralta from Danubio. Matias Orozco from Deportivo Cali. Luca Rejardo from Newell's, their 19-year-old captain that we talked about yesterday. And Justin Lerma from Independiente del Valle. So that's what you're staring at with those top 10 young midfielders, top 10 U21 midfielders in South America. A statistics-based organization. I was going to say a stat farm. A stat farm in Switzerland has your top 10 South American U21 midfielders. 3 of the top 9 were being chased after by Atlanta United. Boca once again viewed Milton Delgado as a $10 million player. Defensor thought Mauricio Amado was a $3 million player, plus incentives. So Atlanta United goes out and gets statistically the top U21 midfielder in South America, signing Mauricio Amado through 28-29 with an option year behind it, and are interested in the number 2 and the number 9 when it comes to midfielders that are under the age of 21 in South America. So that's what Chris Henderson and the front office pursued and picked up in Mauricio Amado, the top U21 midfielder in South America, according to a stats think tank in Switzerland. So just to continue this thought process, looking at the latest involving those folks. So here's what we'll do. We'll go through all of the numbers and the sources and what you're staring at. So we'll see what the latest is on Milton Delgado. And it came out yesterday afternoon that Boca had a $10 million price tag. And so then Trabzonspor had bid 8. Atlanta goes to 10. Boca Juniors demands 15. So you could see where Trabzonspor and Atlanta United were trying to get Delgado. Delgado continued to get priced up and up and up. And so you're just kind of like, yeah, okay, it's too rich for my blood. And so then you go to Defensor and you end up getting Amado instead. So Trabzonspor interested in Milton Delgado. Atlanta United was interested in Delgado. Boca rejected the offer. 16 million euro, 10 million. Trabzonspor interested. So that was same exceeded 10 million, high percentage of the pass. And that's from Herman Garcia Grova. So Boca rejects Atlanta United. Trabzonspor was still interested. And let me see if we have any other updates involving any of the players that we have been looking at and or pursuing. So Sorachi for Houston, that happened yesterday. Castaño to Atlético Mineiro. Joaquin Correa from Botafogo to Estudiantes. Let's see. Vasco da Gama and River get a verbal agreement from Facundio Colidio. $4.5 million, half the pass. Possibility of transferring the other 50 for $5.5 million based on objectives. There's Delgado. So it was $10 million for a large percentage of the pass, and it was Atlanta United. Okay, so nothing further on Delgado other than Trabzonspor and Atlanta United, and it was a lot of money that Boca was asking, and they kept moving it up and up and up. So bid for the full turned down because the Shineze management values him at around 15. So the release clause at 15. Atlanta United said 10 for a percentage of the pass. And Trabzonspor said 8. And Boca was like, no thanks, fam, we're good. So that was the latest on Milton Delgado. Now, Luca Ricciardo. Let's go there and continue to look at those players. Luca, let me see. I want to spell Ricciardo correctly, just one G. So Luca Ricciardo from Newell's. Once again, 2 days ago, it was listed that Ricciardo was on the list. According to a couple of different sources, it looks like Ricciardo is not leaving the club, meaning Newell's, in this transfer window. So, once again, obviously, Tata Martino with his interest, looking at the 19-year-old captain. And let's see. So, trying to see if there's anything else that is recent on Ricciardo. The answer is no. But according to, and this was 2 days ago, was when Gonzalo Calvigioni was the one who had put the information out about Newell's and Ricciardo. So it is being reported in some places in South America that the 19-year-old captain for Newell's is not going to be leaving in this window. We'll see. So Amato is in. Delgado is staying at Boca. Ricciardo is staying at Newell's as of this moment. And so now that gets us to Braille Embolo. Braille Embolo was the fourth name that we discussed yesterday. And we'll see what the latest is there with Atlanta United chasing after Embolo. Ben Jacobs, remember, yesterday had mentioned Napoli and Milan and Atlanta United. Embolo's valued at around 15 million euro. This was yesterday. So going in today to see if there's any advancement. AC Milan, Swiss Temptation for the attack. Once again, challenge to Napoli for $15 million. AC Milan, Napoli, and Atlanta United right now. Napoli, Milan, and beyond. Some sources are saying Atlanta United's already held talks because he is one of the options that Atlanta United has been pursuing. So Napoli, AC Milan, Atlanta United, Premier League. 15 million euro valuation. And so no advancement that I can see in anything where Atlanta United has held talks for the Rennes striker valued around 15 million euros. So that seems to be the common thread in all of this. Atlanta has had discussions. Napoli and Milan are interested. And so now Rennes has themselves a good problem to have at 15 million euro. So AC Milan in, Napoli in, Bournemouth in, Atlanta United already having talks. So that's where we are with Braille and Embolo. And those are the four names that we know about that have been bandied about when it comes to Atlanta United. Checking to see if there's any other rumor, report, what have you. Let's see. No negotiations between Romelu Lukaku and Monaco, considering different options. Atlanta United apparently is still keen. But like I said, this is reports. And when you have these kinds of things, I'm going to continue to remind you, check your sources, check your sources, check your sources. Especially here in these windows. It is going to get crazier when everything gets lined up when it comes to transfer windows. But just to remind you once again, check your sources, check your sources, check your sources. That's where we are. But Atlanta United signs in some circles including a stat organization in Europe, the top-ranked U21 midfielder in South America, and Mauricio Amaro from Defensor Sporting in Uruguay. So that is on the board. Like I said, $3 million plus incentives is where it apparently is locked in right now. So that's your latest when it comes to Atlanta United, what they're pursuing. 21-year-old Uruguayan midfielder Mauricio Amaro from Defensor Sporting, $3 million plus incentives, performance-based incentives. So that's where we are with Atlanta United and their pursuits here in this window. So that's where you're at. So keep an eye on all of that stuff, and we will continue to keep an eye on all of that for you as we go. I have an upcoming doctor's appointment Tuesday afternoon. Okay, didn't know that. I do now. Nothing like getting sent something that sits there and goes, yeah, you got an appointment with the doctor. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I do. All right, so that is the latest on Atlanta United. We've walked through the four names, one of them now in, but now we know rankings about where they are when it comes to U21 midfielders. So once again, when it comes to Amado, not afraid to get in tackles, not afraid to get in duels, not afraid to go and chase after and recover. Doesn't put a whole lot of numbers on the stat sheet and the score sheet, but that's not what he's here for. He's here to get the ball. He's here to stop offensive attacks and regain the ball in possession for you and be a force in the defensive midfield for you. So that's what you're chasing. That's what you've seen from Mauricio Amado, and that's what the numbers dictate. That's what they have coming out. So that is Defensor Sporting's Mauricio Amaro. He is now in camp, contract through 28-29 with an option year 29-30. And like I said, we'll keep an eye on all of that as we continue forward. So that's your Atlanta United update. So we had one of those this morning. Okay, so did that. And since we're discussing all kinds of players and things, that's where we're going to go now. Get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and find out who might be heading where and doing what. And so we mentioned Rodri, we mentioned his deal, and we mentioned what the numbers are and how obviously it is not going to be an easy pursuit for anyone chasing after Rodri at the moment to try to get him out of Manchester City. Enzo Fernandez has emerged as a main candidate to replace Rodri at Manchester City, according to Gianluca Di Marzio. New City boss Enzo Maresca keen on a reunion, whom he coached at Stamford Bridge, but a fee of over £100 million will be required to land the Argentina international. Sources have told the four-letter that Rodri has chosen Barca over Madrid. That's in negotiations as we were talking. Final year of his contract at the Etihad. Chelsea have also been linked with an unlikely move for Arsenal midfielder Martin Zubimendi, according to Mundo Deportivo. Xabi Alonso keen on the World Cup winner. Gunners unlikely to move him on, even with a new £75 million midfielder in Bruno Guimaraes arriving. All right. By the way, hydration break. I'm calling it right now. Brought to us by our friends at local Vine Beer, Wine, and Liquor stores. 2 locations, Johns Creek and Cumberland, corner of Cumberland Parkway and Cobb Parkway. Great friends with us here at SDH. And thanks for hanging out with us starting here in 2026. And thanks for all that you do with us to help us tell stories of the beautiful game going forward. So everybody, hydration break. Here we go. Hopefully you're hydrated. And since we are here in the Kaiser Permanente studios, we continue rolling on. Kaiser Permanente, once again, thanks for letting us be a part of everything. As you see, obviously, in the bunting and the logos and everything. Kaiser Permanente, great partners with us here at SDH as well. Arsenal and Manchester United scouts have been closely watching Shakhtar forward Kawa Elias, according to the 3-letter paper. Scored a hat-trick Monday in the 5-1 win over Kudrivka and is considered a top prospect who could be available for around €35 million. Gunners are looking to replace Gabriel Jesus in the final few weeks of the transfer market. Napoli keen, according to Globo, A 20 million euro valuation been set for the transfer as the 29-year-old enters the final year of his deal at the Emirates. Trabzonspor want to reunite Mo Salah and Darwin Nunez, according to iNews. Left out of Al Hilal's squad when Karim Benzema joined in February. Could depart this summer. Spurs also interested in a 20 million euro move for the Uruguayan international. Galatasaray made an opening offer to AC Milan for the signing of winger Rafa Leao, according to Sasha Tavolieri. Negotiations over a reported 60 million euro deal from the 27-year-old have been ongoing over the past 2 days. After he made it clear he wanted a new challenge, Portuguese international has been with AC Milan since 2019. 64 Serie A goals. Turkish club has also added Gabriel Martinelli to their shortlist, according to Gianluca Di Marzio. Also, done deals. We mentioned Jan Diomande, 125 million euro, 144 million dollar fee, 10 million in euro, easily achievable bonus, and another 5 million euro in bonuses that are harder to achieve. So, could be 135 million, could be 140, but Jan Diomande is now part of RB Leipzig. Just a couple of years ago, he was getting supersized checks for standing out in the UPSL, and now teenage winger has gone from Leipzig to Real Madrid. Leeds United had signed keeper James Trafford at Manchester City for a fee which could get up to £45 million. Como has signed wingback Jan Couto from Dortmund for the 26-27 season on loan. We mentioned Rodri and the update from David Ornstein. Chucky Lozano finalizing the deal to be on loan from San Diego FC to LAG. It would make him a designated player for the remainder of the 26 season, option to make the move permanent next year. Other rumors. Liverpool and Dortmund leading the race to sign Senegalese winger Ibrahim Mbaye, who is 18, from PSG this summer. That's from L'Equipe. Fabrizio Romano, Spurs have reached a verbal agreement with defender Mickey van de Ven on the terms of a new deal at the club. Liverpool currently not working on a deal to sign Jed Spence from Spurs. That's from TalkSport. Romano again. Atletico de Madrid have opened talks with Spurs over a deal to sign Guti Romero. It's 40 million euros in the neighborhood. Also from Romano, Chelsea have reached an agreement with Rayo Vallecano to sign Pep Chavarria, set for a medical before signing. Foot Mercato, Manchester City have reached a verbal with Marseille over a deal to sign Geronimo Rulli. The keeper is set to replace James Trafford, who was confirmed as the lead signing earlier yesterday. Hull City showing interest in Lorient defender Nathan Adjei, with the Premier League clubs requesting the terms of a potential deal at Sasha Tavolieri. Rooney Bargi looking to leave Barca this summer for more playing time. This is according to AS. Club is open to sanctioning an exit with the option of a return clause in any deal. David Fratesi keen to swap Inter Milan in favor of Juve as the 26-year-old midfielder keen to work under Bianconeri boss Luciano Spalletti again. That's from Gazzetta. Gazzetta also reporting Douglas Luiz has turned down the opportunity to play for Everton as his future remains in doubt. Spent last season on loan at Forest and Villa in the Premier League. So that's the latest in the gossip, the rumor, and the innuendo. Argentina and Mexico's FAs have backed Gianni Infantino. UEFA is standing by a World Cup boycott plan despite the apology that came yesterday from the president of FIFA. Vinicius Jr. has agreed to a new 6-year deal to stay at Real Madrid, and that puts it through 2032. Argentina is not going to pressure Messi over the Copa America, nor should you at this point. And Emma Hayes, this was interesting. Jeff Kassouf, very, very busy man. And this came out last night. Interview that Kassouf had with Hayes. And she told Kassouf she believes the U20 Women's World Cup is crucial for player development, and that the rest of the world has better utilized Youth World Cups to improve their player pools. Quoting Hayes in the interview with Kassouf, I consider the under-20 event the biggest platform for young players to play in. I keep thinking about so many of our players that whether they miss the U17, how critical it is for them to come through the U20s. 26 U20s is expected to begin September the 5th in Poland. But remember, we still have that boycott that is hanging over everything now with UEFA. Remains committed to boycotting FIFA competitions after the FFE plan from Gianni Infantino was abandoned. Hayes said that she and her staff will be watching and scouting the U20 in person. U.S. has historically struggled at Youth World Cups. They've never won the U17. Last won the U20 in 2012 when you had Julie Johnson, Crystal Dunn. Third place finish in 24 was their best in the 5 editions since. Hayes tells Kassouf there are cultural differences between the U.S. and top European countries like Spain, which specifically emphasizes player development at the youth international levels, even for teenagers who've already turned professional. Said that those World Cup experiences, combined with the quality of the youth Euros and young players participating in the women's Champions League, mean that rival nations have players competing significantly more often than Americans at higher levels. Almost a year more of soccer games over a 4-year cycle. Hayes says that she's sending a warning sign because she's worried about the direction for and the lack of all of those experiences for American players. USWNT coach pointed to two-time World Player of the Year Alexei Putellas, who had a breakout U17 in 2010. Aitana Bonmati, who played in the U20s in 2018, even after gaining senior international experience. Spain was dominant in Europe, globally at the youth levels, leading up to the World Cup win in 23. First senior trophy ever. And so England has accelerated their development, valuing international and youth competitions. Emma Hayes also praised players like Colombia's Linda Caicedo, who played in multiple Youth World Cups with her senior national team, now 21, playing for Real Madrid. More American women have turned professional as teenagers, Olivia Moultrie being an example of that. Increase in American women turning pro has created higher stakes and for their NWSL teams. NWSL teams in youth international tournaments don't take place during official FIFA release dates, which could put players in between club and country. That means that players like Moultrie and Alyssa Thompson were age eligible but missed the U20 World Cup to stay with their pro teams. Emma Hayes says she feels it's unfair for young players to be in that position. FIFA should make U20 World Cups part of the international match calendar as mandatory release dates. And I love that idea. The experience of World Cup specific travel, caliber of competition cannot be replicated, according to Hayes. Wants to see how players handle the pressure of the World Cup next month. Believes there's a direct correlation between those at the U20 World Cup level and who are better prepared for senior international soccer. Continuity between players for Spain and Japan is clear at the senior level to Emma Hayes. Reality is, she says, if you get the opportunity to play Spain, Japan, France, England, Brazil, Germany, Sweden at any age group, it is an absolute necessity for your development. If I look at the last cycle, if I look at Ali Sentner, Claire Hutton, Jordan Bugg, Giselle Thompson, without that U20 World Cup, and I know because I watched it and witnessed it, I'm sure not that they would have made the progression that they would have had, but that they have. I think for players not playing in it, it's not enough what they do domestically. Of course, it's creating a really good platform for them to build off, but our players need to have bigger exposures internationally. Agreed on multiple fronts. So we'll see how the U.S. responds to it and how the governing bodies respond to it as well. So we'll see what happens there. But it was interesting to have Jeff Kassouf discuss with Emma Hayes what she thought. And there's a lot to consider. And if you're looking for the women from an international perspective to improve and be ready for later on in their careers internationally, you've got to get them into the U20s and the U17s and all that kind of stuff. So, no, I'm with Emma Hayes on this one. So she sent up a flare. We'll see if anybody listens. We'll see what happens. Okay, so let's see. What have I missed on what is that? Okay. All right, there we go. Okay, just trying to it's like you get somebody to send you a note or to kind of CC you on the 280 character app, and you're wondering what it's about. Okay, just it's like why am I attached to this? You have to kind of go down that rabbit hole a bit. Okay, since we are discussing the women's game, I did want to get in this note about the NWSL and get into the juice boxes here. For the remainder of the show, it's NWSL preview. It is MLS Next Pro preview, everything else that's going on, and checking in with our normal tent poles when it comes to movement and player interest and things like that. So in Louisville, and this was at one of those, the business meetings where you have all the muckety mucks that are together, and they sit there and kind of let you know the state of play when it comes to their particular business. At a local Louisville business event, it was a conversation that was being had, and one of the speakers that was attached to it was John Neese, the chairman of Soccer Holdings LLC. And once again, that's the organization that is tied to Racing Louisville and to Lou City. The Venture Connectors Luncheon. Stephen Schmidt from Louisville Business First, the Biz Journals, and their circle. Chairman John Neese tells a business luncheon crowd the team will be forced to take action if attendance numbers don't improve at Lynn Family Stadium. And that was a shot across the bow. And he is trying to let everybody know where things stand. Ashley Pellet from The Athletic pursued this, and Neese told Pellet in an interview following up on all of this that Racing Louisville is actively seeking new investors as they try and strengthen their financial position to try to keep pace with growth of NWSL. Neese tells Pellet, quote, "We're still out there seeking an investor or investors who can help us stabilize, for lack of a better word, our current situation. That has not changed at all, nor will it until we get that investor." News about the team seeking an investor first reported by ESPN back in May. And Neese has said that he is open to either investor operator who can bring in new ideas or just a cash injection, one of the two. He stressed in the interview with Pellet that there are no plans to leave Louisville. Keeping the club in the city remains the goal. He did acknowledge that if additional investment, sponsorship, and fan support do not materialize, club may have to consider alternatives, including moving to another market. Neese says, quote, "We're not planning to move the team, but I think economic reality would be if you can't make it work here. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's the way I put it. If you build a restaurant somewhere, nobody comes in to eat, you either close it down or you move the restaurant, right? Or you change your menu." Neese refers to himself as an accidental NWSL owner. They acquired Racing Louisville in 2019 for $1 million. Played their first season in 21, 25, made their playoff run, and was eliminated in the quarters, losing to the Spirit, who was the number 2 seed at the time. Louisville has not taken on any kind of outside investment since they came online. And the NWSL's rapid expansion obviously has created issues and things to tackle for the current ownership of the franchises that are running in the league. Average NWSL franchise, according to Pellet, is worth $184 million. Racing Louisville's valued at $127. And once again, remember, Columbus paid $205 to come into the league. Atlanta paid $165 to come into the league. And once again, they're starting in 2028. So the teams that are in the league currently, they're the ones that are trying to figure out, okay, with all of this money coming in with these teams and expansion fees, and looks like they want to invest, how do we keep up? Jessica Berman back on Wednesday when asked about the league's take on relocation, quote, "Always the preference of the league to maintain the continuity of the location of our teams. But it is not a never. Just not preferred And where there are circumstances that warrant consideration, we will look at that. Berman also confirmed the league is actively involved in racing's search for investment. Nice says, quote, what was acceptable or enough 2 years ago isn't today. He pushed back to Pellet on the idea that racing is dramatically underspending on its roster, saying the club is operating near the league's salary cap, even if it's not among the biggest spenders. Nice says, it's not like the salary cap's $2 and we're only spending 50 cents. We're not the top spenders, but we're also spending near the cap. And we made significant investments in players last year that I thought would continue to perform this year like they did last. For whatever reason, we just haven't hit our stride. 26 seasons so far. They've won 2 of their last 3, beating Chicago, following a 5-1 loss to Kansas City and a 2-1 road win over Angel City. And so they're now within the reach of the playoffs. Nice said that racing would welcome more than simply a cash injection. An investor with experience and ideas about how to improve the organization would also be attractive. Nice says, I don't sit here and say I think we got the corner on good ideas. Lots of folks have good ideas, would do some things probably differently than we've done them, did not come from a sports background. Have we made some mistakes? Of course we have. Another bright person or voice in the room would be awesome. One of the main challenges is at Louisville is attendance. Local support's needed to make the long-term model work. One of the smaller markets, so we have less potential sponsors, potential fan base, less of all those things. If we're going to make it work, we have to come and support them. We have to be there, not just talk about it. We actually have to go. In order for us to do it, we've got to show up. Nice admits to still being bullish on racing and the league, and that he believes they're going to get where they want to go, and just still a work in progress. Not satisfied with where they are, but it does take money to go where we want to go. So, along those lines, morning, David. Morning, David. Morning, Will. Morning, Abby. Morning, Four-Card. Morning, Alex. So, to give you your juice box numbers and let you know where everything sits when it comes to the NWSL, since we were discussing Racing Louisville. Racing Louisville today is a part of the doubleheader, or two matches, not quite doubleheader. Orlando hosting Racing Louisville, 7 o'clock. Pride are a minus 147, draws a plus 295. Racing Louisville's a plus 300. Gotham and San Diego at 8. Gotham a plus 110. Wave a plus 225. Draw is a plus 220. Just to give you an idea about the standings right now in the NWSL. Gotham unbeaten in 5, 4 wins. And they have the number 1 defense as well in the league. They've only given up 12 goals in 18 matches. 37 points. 1 point ahead of Washington Spirit, who had a 3-game win streak snapped last time out. Utah has won 3 of 4. They're at 33 points. And you can keep up with Utah with what Jarrett gets to do, getting to go to Monarchs and Royals and RSL on a regular basis. So SDH Mountain, that's all Jarrett. Utah is 33 points. Winners is 3 of 4. San Diego has hit each column once in their last 3. They're at 32. Current, they've done the same thing. Hit each column once in their last 3. Current's at 29. Portland has lost 3 of 4, 1 point in their last 4 matches. They're at 28. Courage has won 2 in a row. They're at 27. Angel City on goal difference is in the 8th playoff spot. They're unbeaten in 4 of 5. And they are 16 matches played and in 8th at 23. Then better goal difference, Seattle, better goal difference over Orlando, and that gets you to 11. Summit have lost 2 of 3. They're ahead of Legacy on goal difference. They both seem to have found their stride. Boston, after a rough start, they're now 12th at 20 points. Dash are at 19. They've hit each column once in their last 3. Bay has lost 3 in a row. They're at 18 points. Racing Louisville's 1, 2 of 3. They are 4, 2, and 11, and they are at 14 points. And Chicago has lost 4 in a row. They're 4 and 13. 12 points. They've only scored 9 goals in 17 matches. They've given up 33. So they're scoring about a half and giving up about 2. And that is the trouble for the Stars right now. So that's where NWSL is right now heading into this weekend. So keep an eye on Racing Louisville just from a financial perspective. It's probably the best way that I can phrase it, and see where John Neese has admitted that they need help. Had the big business meeting with all the Louisville movers and shakers. The interview with Ashley Pellet at the Athletic, and that's where we are with Racing Louisville. Doesn't want to move, wants some help, needs some financial assistance as well, looking for outside investors or in kind or what have you. But he's looking for that boost so they can get to that next level and keep up with expansion and the expansion investment that we're seeing from Atlanta. We know this here in this footprint. And what you're anticipating from Columbus is they come online in 28. So we'll see what happens there with those two. But keep an eye out on Racing Louisville in the foreseeable future. Trying to see if there's anything else that I've missed before I go into my other leagues. And we will see here. Hang on. Let's see. So that's there. Let's see. I'm trying to see where we are. And let's see where we have here. There is an article up, by the way, on Mauricio Amaro from Jason. Remember, as of the top of the last hour, Atlanta has signed Mauricio Amaro from Defensor Sporting in Uruguay. Top-ranked U21 midfielder on the continent, according to a stat think tank in Switzerland with the numbers that they pieced together. And Atlanta United interested in 3 of the top 9 at that position at the U21 level. Number 2 is probably going to stay at Boca. Number 9 is probably going to stay at Newell's for this window. And what do? They get the number 1. So you got, and the article is up on Amaro. So it's a bio piece, and you have numbers and stats, and Chris Henderson looking at the third U22 initiative signing of the year, Jacob Baez, and now Amaro. So under head coach Tata Martino, Amaro is expected to sit in front of a back line that Atlanta has spent the summer rebuilding. Junior Alonso, Paulo Diaz, and you'll have Junior Alonso, Paulo Diaz, and Amy High, Matt Edwards. You'll have Baez, you'll have Jacob, you'll have Dominic Chonqui, and Stian Gregerson is attached to it at present. And so in front of all of that, you're going to have Amaro as a part of that equation with the 6s. And whether it's Will Riley, you would have Jay Fortune attached, depending on how you want to work things and orchestrate them. That means that probably there would be no fear once Amaro gets acquainted with the system and they're comfortable with him starting. You would see Tristan Muyumba going forward. You would have Amaro playing behind. You'd have him being the more defensive of the two in that system, to where he would be your 6. And he drifts back even further to help out if you need a line of 5 or an extra body back there. So he would be the more defensive of the 2 defensive midfielders, not engaging, while Jacob and Baez go forward. Amaro would be a one who would be playing back. So that's what you're staring at. So holding midfielder, cover, and a way to move the ball forward. So that's what you're staring at with Mauricio Amaro and Defensor Sporting. So keep an eye on all of that. And we mentioned getting adjusted for time with the first team. And I mentioned some names that are with the 2s. The 2s in Chattanooga tomorrow. We're all heading up there. 6:30 pregame, 7:03 kick at Fort Finley. And it's Atlanta United 2 and Chattanooga FC. And it is a big matchup for the 2s. They're all big. Who am I kidding? They're all big matchups between now and the end of the season, considering what Atlanta United 2 is in right now with their movement in the Eastern Conference. And right now, the Eastern Conference and MLS Next Pro is tight, very tight. So just to give you an idea where things stand in MLS Next Pro. Standings in the Eastern Conference. Crown Legacy at 43. Chattanooga FC is at 40 at 10-5-6-4. They've gained 4 points in shootout wins this season. Revs 2 at 39. Same number of wins as Columbus Crew 2, but a better goal difference by 4. Orlando City B is at 35 points. They are in 5th. Atlanta United 2 has a better goal difference, substantially so, over Connecticut United, who's really found their stride here after the first 6 weeks of the season. Connecticut United at 34 points. Atlanta United currently 6th in the table at 10-6-4. They have not won any of the shootouts this season in MLS Next Pro. So 10-6-4. No shootout win points. Connecticut United, 34 points. They are in 7th. If the playoffs started today, the choice would be who wants to play Chicago Fire 2. 33 points. They're in 8th. 8-6-6-3. Red Bull 2 are at 32. They are in 9th. NYCFC 2 are 30 points. They are in 10th. Huntsville City Football Club in 11th at 28. 20 matches played. Some teams have already played 21, 22 matches. So Atlanta United 2 still having matches in hand as well. So Philadelphia Union 2 in 12th at 27. TFC 2 is 13th at 25. Core is 14th at 23 points. FC Cincinnati 2, 0-9 on the road this year. FC Cincinnati 2, 16 points. 4-14, 2-2. They've given up twice as many goals as they've scored. And Inter Miami CF2, only one win in their first 19. They're 1-14, 4-1. They've given up 47 goals. They have only scored 16. Their one win was at home at the Erector Set in Fort Lauderdale. They are 0-9-2 this season in away games in MLS Next Pro. So, once again, it's Atlanta United at 34 points. And if they were to get a result, they would go ahead of Orlando City B. They have matches in hand on OCB and on Chattanooga. Right now, they're at 20 matches played. Crown, Revs 2, Columbus Crew 2, they've all played 20. Chattanooga, Orlando City B played 21. So Atlanta United, a match in hand on 2 of the 5 teams above them in the standings. But Chattanooga FC is 7-2-2 at home this year. So we'll see what Jose Silva and the guys have in mind for the matchup Saturday night at Fort Finley at 6:30 pregame on the network, 7:03 kick on SDH Radio. So keep an eye on all that. And I know that there was discussing of the things that are going on involving other players right now with Atlanta United 2. Check your sources when it comes to availability and who's chasing after whom. Just check your sources. We're in a window. Check your sources, people. Check your sources. That's all that you're hunting for. 5 o'clock this afternoon. It is the semifinals in the U20 and the CONCACAF U20 championships. US MNT, the US YNT, the 19s are taking on Costa Rica in a semifinal match day. It's on FS2 once again, 5 o'clock FS2, and you need to keep an eye on that this afternoon. Since we're promoting that for you, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, brought to us by our friends at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. We talked about the tournaments and everything away from the U.S. to watch on Fanatis and what you can get with WAFCON and such. The Polish League, we mentioned the Polish League up and running on the BNs, 2:30. They kick off their weekend. Wisla Krakow and Wisla Plock is at 2:30. BNN and Espanyol is simulcasting. U20 semis at 10 o'clock on FS1. It is Mexico and Canada. FS2 has the Canadian Premier League after your USA-Costa Rica match, Forge in Vancouver. It's on FS2. 2 to NA Leagues Cup, Cincinnati and Pumas. Unimas is simulcasting. Apple TV has it. All of the 5 matches are on Apple TV tonight. German 3 Bundesliga on the Plus at 1 o'clock. Waldhof Mannheim and Fortuna Düsseldorf. Fox ONE has the Canadian Premier League and the U20s. Fox Soccer Plus has USA Costa Rica and the Canadian Premier League. Your MLS Next Pro matchup with Messi and Friends 2 and Crown Legacy at 7. It's on the MLS YouTube channel, MLSNextPro.com, and OneFootball. Paramount Plus, League Cup going on. 2:45 Wolves in Port Vale. 3 o'clock Middlesbrough and Wrexham. Middlesbrough. Women, Amazon Prime, it is Gotham and San Diego at 8 o'clock. ESPN Plus, it has the Northern Super League at 7. Montreal and Halifax. NWSL Plus has Orlando and Racing Louisville at 7 o'clock tonight. And that's your Friday. Your Saturday, you've still got a couple of friendlies and such. You've got 2 friendlies involving Chelsea, Milan, and Real Madrid. That's early Saturday morning. And at 1 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. Portuguese Primera is on BN, 3:30, Estrela and Sporting. USL Championship on Saturday. It is Monterey Bay in New Mexico. That's at 10 o'clock. Leagues Cup. FS1's got 2 matchups back-to-back at 9 and 11. FS2 has a doubleheader in the Canadian Premier League, Pacific and Toronto, Quebec and Calgary. You can watch that on One Soccer and subscribe to that like I do. Fox Soccer Plus has Ottawa and Halifax at 1 o'clock. BN and Espanol simulcasting the Portuguese Primera. Fox Deportes has the friendly. 2 to NA has your Leagues Cup, as does Univision. Apple has a match in Major League Soccer. New England and Houston is at 4:30 on Saturday afternoon, so as not to interfere with Leagues Cup on Saturday. Orlando City and León, Inter Miami, Monterrey, Guadalajara, Chivas and Dallas, RSL Atlante, Toluca, and LAFC. Friendlies on Golazo Network. Juve and Inter at 7. Brighton and Roma at 10. Barcelona Forest at 3. Udinese Barcelona at 4. USL Championship Tulsa and Detroit is at 8:30. ESPN Plus, they have 2 in the Eredivisie. 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. USL Championship, they have the 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 matches in USL Championship, plus the 7 in USL League One. Fox ONE has their Chelsea Milan friendly, doubleheader Leagues Cup, tripleheader Canadian Premier League. They have the 8 matches in MLS Next Pro, MLSNextPro.com. It is MLS YouTube and OneFootball. Once again, 7:03 kick, Chattanooga FC, Atlanta United 2 on the network here with us. Maddie, Jason, myself. I'll have your halftime and I'll have your pregame. And pregame starts at 6:30 on the SDH network. Paramount Plus has 3 friendlies, and they have 7 matchups in the League Cup on Paramount Plus, starting at 9, going all the way to 12:30. USL Championship, 2 matches, 8:30 and 10. Veeks has the LPF, but if you have Fanatis, you can get that regardless. Women on Saturday, NWSL, your triple header. Denver, Utah, Washington, Courage, Houston, and Kansas City. Fox ONE has Liga MX Femenil. Veeks has 2 matchups in Femenil, and that gets you through your Saturday. Sunday, just so you know, BN and Espanol have the Portuguese Primera. CBS Sports Network, Liverpool and Monaco. FS1 Leagues Cup doubleheader, Cruz Azul NYC, and America and Portland. CONCACAF U20 Championship, FS2, 7 o'clock on Sunday. Fox Deportes has 3 matches, the Liverpool friendly and the Argentina Primera. 2 to NA simulcasting Leagues Cup, Univision simulcasting Leagues Cup. Apple TV has 8 matchups in Leagues Cup on Sunday. On Golazo, they have 2 friendlies and the Scottish Premiership with Rangers and Hibs, and Indy and Hartford at 5 o'clock. ESPN doubleheader in the Eredivisie, 3 Bundesliga, USL Championship, Fox ONE, the friendly, the U20 final, and Leagues Cup on Sunday. OneFootball, MLS Next Pro, and MLS YouTube triple header in MLS Next Pro. Paramount Plus, there's your friendly, doubleheader in the Scottish Premiership, USL Championship. Veeks has 5 matches in the LPF and the U20 final. Women's side, it is Boston, Portland. It is Seattle and Angel City on ESPN, and Seattle and Angel City simulcast on Deportes, Northern Super League, Ottawa and Toronto at 2, NWSL Plus, Chicago and Bay. And that does it for another week. I think I got all the notes. Oh, keep an eye on the situation in Oakland with the Roots and see what happens there as they continue. Oh, no, I forgot. I forgot some other stuff. So hang on just a second. Let me take care of something off camera, and we will wrap. I forgot to check on our sources. So let me check on our sources, and we can get everything squared away for the weekend. I forgot to check on if we're missing anything from Tom Bogert and our buddy Ben Jacobs, and then that should get us off and running for the weekend. Once again, thanks to all the guests that were here this week. And it was great to find Alex Abnos to talk about everything going on at Austin and the journalism that goes behind those kinds of stories like you see at The Guardian. And let's see, who else was here this week? It was Nino and Nico. It was Dylan. It was Santiago Lopez from El Farolito. It was KCD. It was Abe and Bart. And it was all over the place. Once again, it's a lot of great guests here for another week on SDH. So we will check all of our sources and find out what we might have been missing when it comes to gossip, rumor, and innuendo. And so, of course, you minimize one thing and then you end up with something else. So Ben Jacobs, will see if there's anything going on in Ben's world before we catch up with Tom Bogert. And let's see. Real Madrid have now ended talks with Manchester City over Rodri. So Manchester City rejected €45 million bid from Barca. Understand Manchester City won around 75. Coventry City are set to return with an improved bid for Sheffield United's Gus Hamer. They're not too far apart in their valuations. Sasha Lukic passed his Ipswich medical. Lukic set to join Fulham on a 4-year deal on a £9 million package. Villa's women have signed forward Lily Murphy on a season-long loan for Manchester City. Barcelona agreed to terms with Rodri and are in talks over signing, optimism that a fee can be agreed to. Juti Romero and Atletico de Madrid terms are in place. Spurs are prepared to sell for around £35 million. They had open talks. Inter was also interested. Celta de Vigo confirmed that Alte Bayendier has joined for Manchester United on a loan with a buy option, and that was $3.5 million was the number that was quoted 2 days ago. And looks like that nothing has wandered far from that number. So it looks like it's in that $3.5 million range when it comes to the loan of Alte Bayendier to be in the nets for Celta de Vigo upcoming this year. And so that is the international stuff from our buddy Ben Jacobs. So now we check the domestic and see if there's anything else that we might have missed when it comes to Tom Bogert. And so now, once again, going to check with Tommy Scoops, among other folks. Let me see here. All right, we got that. Xavier Gozo is still up and running as an idea. Chucky Lozano being finalized as a loan for LAFC or for LAG, and going from San Diego FC. We mentioned Marcelo Sarachi from Boca Juniors going to Houston, finalizing that deal for a left back. Herman Garcia Grover was the first one to lock that one down. So let me see if there's anything from David Ornstein that we might have missed, and then that might do it for a week. Sasha Lukic, we mentioned. Real Madrid, Vinicius Jr., we mentioned that. Okay, so we're good there. And trying to, let's see. I'm trying to see if there's anybody else that we might have moved on. I think that's it. But thanks to all of y'all for hanging out this week. Morning, OG. So morning, OG, morning, David, morning, Will, morning, Abby, morning, Four Card, morning, Alex. And I think that'll do it. Thanks to Jon Cotterill for joining us this morning for SDH Book Club. And we're searching out for those authors that have books that are kind of cool topics and stuff like that. But Jon Cotterill joined us from Sao Paulo, Brazil this morning. So that was really cool. And we'll keep you posted on all of that stuff. Like I said, biggest thing is the road trip to Chattanooga tomorrow. And we'll get you ready and getting ready for the college game next week and the week after that. So we're like 2 weeks away. Folks are kind of having their scrimmages and getting ready for everything in the college game. 17th is universally. That neighborhood is going to be when things start. Tuskegee's going to start with an exhibition match on the 13th. They're going to have their first matches on the 17th. We're going to try and visit them a couple times this year in person and virtually and find out what's going on there. We've got the event at University of Georgia against James Madison on the 20th. We're obviously going to be there for that. We'll blow that one up for you and all around. So thanks to all the guests this week. Thanks to all of you this week. And just be safe this week. Weather's supposed to be a little dicey. So just enjoy yourselves this weekend. Enjoy your Leagues Cup. Enjoy your NWSL, your USL Championship, WAFCON. It's all out there. It's all out there for you to enjoy. And so as we say here, there's only one way to get your repped and prepped for a weekend. And so, of course, it's all the way down at the bottom of the damn drops. But anyway, here is the only way to get you started on the weekend. From everybody here at SDH to all of you there, mucha plata, y'all play it safe. We'll see you on Monday. Might even see you sooner.
The keys on the typewriter had sharp points that kept sticking into our fingers. The dictating equipment started asking us questions, and our beepers sent electric shocks just through our body like a cattle prod. Out in the warehouse, the trucks kept banging into the docks, not even thinking about stopping. Oh, our frail bodies were strapped to the chairs, and our chairs were chained to the desks. Our pleas for justice were ignored, and the end seemed near. But we busted our slave drivers' little bitty balls. We've charged out of their brick fortress. The streets are